All right, it's Sunday night, and that means it's time for another SLC Dunk podcast. We do these. I'm trying to see if we're live on YouTube. I'm trying. We'll see if this goes up. Maybe it's not working. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. Oh well. Either way, if not, we'll just post it live. But anyways, it's Sunday night, no Jazz games, so that means it's time for an SLC Dunk podcast. Welcome back, Calvin.
Yeah, thanks. This is not at all what I expected for this part of the season, but this is going to be fun to talk about.
No, this has been just absolutely incredible, and the Utah Jazz are doing things I did not expect this year at all. They look good. They look really good, and they're 5-2 as of this podcast. Tomorrow they play the Grizzlies again. I guess that's just where we should start because this Jazz team has been about as surprising as can be. How good are the Utah Jazz?
Yeah, well, we talked about it before the season started that we were trying to predict, and both of us were predicting the Jazz were not going to be very good. But we did say that they have a lot of players who are legitimate NBA players, and so that should keep them from being too far down at the bottom. But I definitely did not expect them to be able to mesh together as well as they have. They've just they fit perfectly in ways that I didn't expect at all. And so the biggest thing I think is how the team's working together, the way that they're passing the ball, the way that they're forcing turnovers, and then also just the big step up that Lauri Markkanen has made, and everyone's just playing together, and all of that, you put that all together, and it's equaling a team that's hard to beat.
Yeah, it's been remarkable and it's been fun. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that go into this, and so the main question is just how good are they? Well, they're 5-2. This game, the thing that's been so surprising to me is that they were supposed to be losing a lot of games. This first 20 games, they were playing playoff caliber teams and are still winning. So last night, obviously, they didn't have Ja Morant, and the Jazz go down to the wire and win a big time game to beat the Grizzlies. The thing is the Jazz now have 3 clutch wins this season. They have 2 overtime wins. They have a big time win last game against the Grizzlies. And anyone who's saying that, they didn't have Ja Morant, so maybe that's not quite as good. Well, the Jazz were playing on the back end of a back-to-back without Mike Conley and still won that game. So this Jazz team, they're a good team. The question is how good. I don't even know how to. I've been looking at videos of Victor Wembanyama for a long time, and I'm starting to just kind of close that out. The algorithm's not showing me those videos anymore because basically what I'm doing now is just realizing that the Utah Jazz are good. And if they stay on this trajectory, well then, the only people that are going to get us a Wembanyama pick is maybe one of our other picks we have going. So anyways, that's the question. So the Jazz are good. I think we can all agree. The Jazz are a good team. They are averaging more assists as a team than they were last year by about 7 per game as a team. So 29 assists per team. Last game, they were at 30 assists as a team. It's just crazy. The fact that they play so cohesively together as a team, and it's the beginning of the year, and it's a group of guys that just haven't played together. We have guys from the Cavs, guys from the Timberwolves, rookies that we got from Europe like Fontecchio and guys like that. Walker Kessler looks like a really good player already. So it's pretty remarkable. The question is, do the Jazz need to make a trade to get worse? That's the question. What do you say, Calvin? This is the question that's going to make everyone either hate you or love you.
Well, it'll probably be half and half because on every post about the Jazz that you see online, there's about half of the people saying we need to tank and half the people saying we need to compete. And here are my thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I have not come to a complete decision on the exact direction that the Jazz should go because they are too good to be a bottom tier team right now. I don't think they're too good to be a lottery team. They're definitely, in fact, I think even at their best right now, things will start to fall down to earth. They probably aren't going to win every clutch game. That's a lot of that has to do with luck. That happens. That's the variance of a season will even out. But I don't know if the Jazz would have to make too drastic of measures to get themselves all the way down to a bottom 3 team. They may. I think the best way to go at this point is probably just to keep playing your young guys, maybe try to let the young guys take more minutes than some of the veterans and just kind of see what happens. A win is great. That helps your players learn. It helps them get better. A loss is okay too, because that helps your lottery odds. I don't think the Jazz should be making any drastic changes right now. But there are a few things I think we should bring up when it comes to tanking. Because if they did decide to fully tank, that would not be coming out of the blue. When I see people arguing against the tanking, I see them saying that, the Jazz had a chance to tank last night, but then the players went and made this awesome run. Players don't tank and coaches don't tank. It's GMs that tank. Players always go out there and they try to win the game because that's what players do. Coaches always want to win the game. Their jobs rely on winning games. It's the GMs that are trying to tank because they want to get those high picks for future years. So you can't be judging what the players are doing and saying the Jazz aren't trying to tank. You have to look at what Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck are doing. And what they're doing kind of looks like a tank. So I don't think that it would be coming out of the blue if we did see a Conley trade or a Clarkson trade or Olynyk or whoever. I think that would be pretty well expected based on everything that we've seen in the last year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the thing that I've been just kind of blown away by is how good Will Hardy's been. He has gotten the best out of every single player on this team. Every single player is playing either better than they were before, has either evolved, or is playing at just their peak capability. And it's pretty remarkable. And so that's part of the reason why they're doing this. And plus, they're playing cohesive. They seem happy. I loved that video clip the other day. It was from Michael Porter Jr. on the Nuggets, and I guess he went to lunch or dinner or something with Jared Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt just said how happy he was on the team, that they're playing free, that he loves playing in a free system or anything. So whatever Will Hardy's doing, it's working. And I think the thing that it's hard for me to get that thought out of my mind, is what does Will Hardy do when he has like an elite, like what if you give Will Hardy a top 5 to 10 player? This is what he's doing with guys that are in like the top 50 or top 100 in the NBA. What happens if you give him a couple guys in the top 10? And that's really the question to me, is like, are we, yes, we're having fun. Yes, we're winning. And I'm going to just enjoy the ride, because it's more fun to just enjoy the ride than sit there and chew marbles while the Jazz win games. Like, that's just not fun. But you also have to just think, like, Mike Conley's got 1 year left on his deal. He's not going to be on the Jazz forever. And, likely probably not going to be in the NBA in 4 years or something like that. If that. Jordan Clarkson has a couple years left, but really the only players on this team after 2 seasons is Colin Sexton. And so if you're thinking about the future, the best asset the Jazz were supposedly going to have this offseason wasn't even the picks they got for Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. It was, or Royce O'Neal, although that pick's starting to look pretty good, is their own pick. But now if you checked Tankathon today, the Jazz's worst asset is their own pick. So it's a very young season. The Jazz are 5-2. I think we've seen a lot already. And in my mind, we've seen all we need to with Will Hardy. This guy can coach like crazy. And so I guess maybe we can talk about trade scenarios. There's one that has to be considered. We've seen little Twitter rumors and rumblings out there. We've seen people like Kevin O'Connor talk about it. The Lakers and Jazz at some point, I think, are going to make a trade. And really the question is, who's it for? But I guess that's my question for you. Should they just not worry about it? Should they just be good and just not worry about trading Mike Conley? Should they, my mic keeps falling down. Should they trade Mike Conley? Should they trade Kelly Olynyk? Should they trade Jordan Clarkson or Malik Beasley? What do you think?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that if they do make this trade, it's going to be a couple of those guys, and it's going to make the team a lot worse because they're not going to keep Russell Westbrook on the team. If they get him, he's not going to stay. They're probably just going to
Yes.
release him as soon as possible. And the Jazz aren't going to be, they're going to become a lot worse if you do that. You even saw, even though yesterday they managed to pull off a fun and exciting win without Conley, you could see there were long stretches of that game where the Jazz would just have turnover after turnover and they kind of fall apart offensively. And so they need that steadying hand of Mike Conley. When you see Kelly Olynyk sit out of the game or Jared Vanderbilt sit out of the game, you'll see the defense start to fall apart. This team is not, it's relying on a few players who are carrying a lot of weight. Markkanen and Conley and Vanderbilt and Olynyk and Clarkson, those guys are carrying a lot of weight on this team. If you take one or two of those guys away, it's going to really hurt the win-loss record for the Jazz. And yeah, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what Danny Ainge wants. But the reason that you'd think about it is just because those Lakers picks, they're going to be future picks, I think 27 and 29. We can't know for sure what that team will be like. It is the Lakers. Maybe Luka Doncic decides he's just going to jump there at some point because that's what happens to the Lakers. They can screw up every year and then some superstar will join them anyway. But if that doesn't happen, those are probably going to be really, really good picks. And so it's got to be enticing. All of the rumors throughout the season or throughout the offseason have been that the Lakers weren't willing to part with both of them, but I just don't think anyone's going to be taking Westbrook and giving good players back without taking both of those picks. So if the Jazz are going to do it, they need both of those picks without a question. And then that's just going to be a full tank move. I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know if I even want that because like you said, this is a fun ride and maybe it's better to just enjoy the ride and use all the picks we already have and build a team that way. But if they did do that, that would make our pick more valuable this year and would give them two more valuable picks in the coming years. So it would be a very good tanking move.
See, I think that's the smart way to go because I think we're hitting a point now with this season where it's like, obviously the players and the coach aren't going to not try to win. They're going out there and they're playing their hearts out and they're so freaking fun. And it's just like last night. So yesterday I just sat down and I said, like thinking about all the different trades and there's lots of rumors going on with the Lakers and it's obvious that they're going to try to make a move. It seems like they're 0-5. Utah's 5-2 now. They were 5-1 when I wrote, or 4-2 when I wrote that. And it just seems like it makes sense that those two teams would make a move. It's just a question of, are the Lakers willing to give two unprotected picks? And then what are the Jazz willing to give them? I think they're, like you said, it kind of, last night they win the game without Mike Conley. If you trade Mike Conley and then let's say they want Malik Beasley or they want Jordan Clarkson, I think either one of those guys you probably think about letting them take because guess what? It means Ochai Agbaji gets to play. And Ochai Agbaji, he's gotten to play the last two games, which has been a really pleasant surprise. He's shown some rookie tentativeness. He's looked a little, he's looking like a rookie that's playing his first games in the NBA. But he's also shown little moments where you're like, oh, wow. Like he had like two nice finishes. I can't remember who we played the night before, but like last night, he's making offensive rebounds. He's making plays. He actually is defending pretty well. He was guarding Desmond Bain or was it Dylan Brooks? And he scored on him once, but there were a couple times where he looked like he was doing pretty solid. So anyways, I think you probably have to do something because those two picks from the Lakers are just too good to not take. I actually think one of the crux of this Jazz team, like the guy that really is making this Jazz team so good is actually Kelly Olynyk. He has been just so good. I mean, he is shooting like 60-something% from three. So that's not going to keep up. That's one of those little red herrings, I think, a little bit is like Kelly Olynyk shooting it like this is, I mean, maybe he'll shoot 65% for the season. I don't know, but I get a feeling he's going to cool off a little bit, have some cold spells and things. But the thing that's been so good about him is he's been like his passing, he's averaging like 4 or 5 assists per game. The play that the Jazz are getting from like the center and the power forward position, where you have guys that can shoot the ball or play make and pass the ball, has been incredible. And so if someone like Olynyk got traded, that would hurt the Jazz almost just as much to me as if you traded Mike Conley. But the other side of the coin, if the Jazz make a trade like that, and let's say Abaji comes out and then just shoots 40-something% from three and looks incredible, and you still win games, then you're just too good. Like, there's not a lot you can do. But then that means that Abaji's really, really good. So I guess I don't want to put words in your mouth. I guess I'm kind of pro making a move. I think we should. I think you still need to think about doing that. But then if you keep winning, so be it. And then, like you said, those picks are so good for the Lakers. Maybe the tank just happens with other teams and we just benefit from them being bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I think right now the Jazz are in a win-win sort of scenario. We talked about it in the offseason where we were talking about the coming tank, and I remember saying something like, if we're winning a lot of games, then that means Lauri Markkanen is a way better player than we thought he was, or Colin Sexton is having a huge breakout season. And so far it's looking like Markkanen and Sexton's been really good too. But
yeah,
if the Jazz keep winning, that just means that we got better players than we thought we did, and that's a win. If they lose, then that's okay, because this was never going to be our year anyway. Our best case scenario, we're probably making a play-in tournament and having a fun first-round series. That's probably the winningest scenario that the Jazz could have this season. And that would be great for the development of a lot of players. And we'd still have a lot of first-round picks to build on that team. And then the total opposite of the spectrum is we make a trade, we're not that good, we lose a lot of games, and that's okay. You still get a lot of development and you get a much better pick. So I don't think that there's a bad way for the season to go outside of injuries. I think whatever direction it takes, the Jazz are set up very well to build on whatever they have and to come back stronger each year for the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no bad move they can make. I mean, yes, if they want to get extreme and just trade I guess they could go out and just trade even more guys. I do think, man, they have something special going on here that really truly is that chemistry that they were talking about, and like the winning culture that everyone's saying they need. My goodness, they have it. And yeah, I think you have to make a trade of some sort, because honestly, you have to get something out of this lottery. But like you said, if we get 2 unprotected picks from the Lakers, those are like, I think it's like 27 and 29. It's going to be post LeBron. We've seen the Lakers just be terrible, and they're so poorly run. I mean, they make such stupid decisions. Jeannie Buss is like taking advice from, like, if we knew the reality, I bet we'd be all shocked at how stupid the situation is for the Lakers. And so that's just a great bet. And so maybe it is, and I have to say, I'm still in shock. I mean, every time they win, I just go, I don't know how this is happening. And so maybe that's what it is. And the fact that the Jazz making a play-in spot actually seems pretty legitimate. And to be honest, they're like better than the play-in right now. If the playoffs started today, it's not play-in, it's like 5 seed. Could you imagine if they made the 5 seed like again after doing all these moves? And that's legitimately a possibility with how they're playing, because these first 20 games were like the hardest games. These were supposed to be the gauntlet. And so I think the thing I'm taking away is I'm just going to enjoy this season. Right now, the Jazz sit at the number 4 spot in the Western Conference. At number 3 is the San Antonio Spurs at 5-2 as well. Last place is the Los Angeles Lakers at 0-5. That Pelicans trade for Davis is looking just like, if you're a Pelicans fan, I know there's like 7 of them total, but you've got to be like just ecstatic, just like unbelievable. The Golden State Warriors are sitting at the 11th spot. They missed the play-in today, if the playoffs were today. So it's an early season. Things are going to adjust, but I think Mike Conley's the guy. I think for the Lakers, oh, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. It's in the Jazz's best interest, and I know this goes against everyone in the chat. Thank you for being a part of the show. It's really fun. But I know it goes against everything to be a Jazz fan, but it is in Utah's best interest to make the Lakers better. Like, can we make the Lakers better just to help our position? They're so bad they can't win. I don't know how you can have managed to have LeBron James and Anthony Davis and be this bad. It's pretty remarkable. But anyways, I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about that? Otherwise, we can move on to another thing.
And just with the potential Lakers trade, they would genuinely be a lot better if they got Mike Conley and Malik Beasley, or Conley and Olynyk, or whatever the combination is, because they are in such desperate need of players who can shoot and players who can just be positive players on the court, because they have none of them outside of James and Davis. It's just hit or miss who's gonna actually be somewhat decent tonight, and none of them can shoot, including Davis. But
it's bad.
But yeah, Mike Conley, we know he can shoot. Malik Beasley can shoot. Having a shooter like Olynyk at your center position would be huge for him. If we gave them two of those players, or Clarkson, or whoever you want to put in there, it would make a night and day difference for the Lakers. Just having one guy that they could rely on would be huge. And if you gave them two, that would completely change their team. And so it would not just tank the Jazz. You're right. It would seriously lift the Lakers up a long way in the standings.
Well, and I wrote about the Lakers. They have the worst offense in the NBA right now. And I was listening to, I think it's the Hoop Collective with like Brian Windhorst.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst offense since the Sixers when they went 1-30 to start the season.
Oh my goodness.
That's how bad. They're doing 96 points per 100. I can't remember what it is, but it's the worst offense since then. The crazy thing is they have like the number 2 or 3 or 4 defense in the NBA. So they're actually playing good defense. And so that's why, yeah, like you send them Mike Conley, like the upgrade from Westbrook to Mike Conley is pretty drastic. Like, you know, and I know Mike Conley's on the latter end of his career, but he's kind of a perfect fit for what they do. He can play off of LeBron. He learned how to play off of Donovan Mitchell. He's kind of like just an elite spot-up shooter that can run a secondary pick and roll. You know, right now he's kind of playing more lead guard for the Jazz and just racking up assists like crazy because he's such a good playmaker, but he would be perfect for them. And then if you consider they could also give him another 40% three-point shooter in a Malik Beasley or something like that. I mean, it's just perfect for what they need. And then if they even got Kelly Olynyk, then look out. You just made the Lakers pretty darn good. But anyways, they're going to have to give up picks because Danny Ainge right now, he's just doing this all day. You know, he's just loving every time the Lakers lost, every time a Russell Westbrook highlight gets put on Twitter that has him like clanking it off the backboard or missing a layup or whatever. It just helps our chances even more. So like you said, the Jazz are a win-win. All right. I kind of mentioned it before, but is Will Hardy a Hall of Fame head coach already?
Hey, I think the thing that we've touched on, but that's the biggest thing that's been so impressive about what he's done, is how he's gotten this team to pass so well. Like we've talked about those stats. I wrote about it recently. As of before last game, the Jazz assist number was the highest that they've had since 1987. And so it was a crazy, crazy number. And the thing that's so crazy about it is the personnel on this team. Like Mike Conley is a very good playmaker. We know that, but he's never been like a 10 assists per game sort of player. He's a good playmaker, but he's never been like a Chris Paul, right? And outside of that, mostly you're looking at score first players. Lauri Markkanen's a shoot first player. Jordan Clarkson, we know, is a shoot first player. Malik Beasley, Colin Sexton, all of these guys are scorers first. And so you look at just the parts of the team and you don't see a team that's going to pass the ball that well. But he's put this team together and somehow managed to just play with their strengths. And their strengths have been a lot of cutting and a lot of passing and just sharing the ball. And every player has been giving it up. Jordan Clarkson has been the biggest night and day difference, where we've always known he has the ability to pass, but he wants to shoot because he's a good scorer and that's who he is. But we've seen so far in these first 7 games, he's putting up 5 assists right now, and it feels like even more than that because he's not always just hunting his shot. He had one game, I think, was it the New Orleans game, that down the stretch he kind of played some hero ball and decided he was going to get his. But outside of that, it's been a lot of Clarkson driving kicks, creating open shots for teammates, and it just makes him a better player, and it makes the whole team better when he does that.
Oh, he's been so much fun. Yeah, 5 assists per game this season. Like you said, he's passing it out to shooters, but he's also he's like driving and dropping it off to Olynyk and Vanderbilt, and they're finishing. This team plays, it's just a fun team to watch. And it's I don't know. I just want to give credit to this Jazz coach. I don't know how he did it, because the locker room for Utah last season, in part, you got to give credit, I guess, to the front office too, to just kind of clean house. And they really, if you look at it, they really did kind of clean out any player. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert were fantastic and great players, but there was, every single night we were writing about it at SLC Dunk. It's like, oh, this new, Rudy said this after the game. Oh, and what does Donovan Mitchell say? Or Donovan Mitchell isn't saying happy birthday to Rudy Gobert on his birthday. And all these things, and I'm not even joking, those were the things we talked about for years. And I'm so glad we're not talking about that stupid stuff anymore. And so the Jazz have just gotten rid of all of that. And they've kept the players that, it really seems like they kept the players that were either talented, young, or good locker room guys. Mike Conley, great locker room guy. Jordan Clarkson, great locker room guy. And they brought in other guys that are either young or talented as well. So, the Markkanens and Colin Sexton and Jared Vanderbilt. These are guys that are just young, talented. They fit a mold that the Jazz want. And then like I said, Will Hardy has been unbelievable. His ability to have this team come out and they play they're so cohesive. They are, it's just a simplified system that Vanderbilt talked about. It's free. A lot of these guys are being allowed to do what makes them really good and just do it better or be free to do it. And what's amazing is they're playing guys they're playing a 10-man rotation, sometimes 11, and double-digit minutes. So he's playing a ton of different lineups. The starting unit has changed multiple times. He has different lineups going out there. He has, Abaji didn't play all year, and then last 2 games he plays. And I know that's partly because of injuries, but he's on the floor. I just could not be more impressed. And one of the things I love about it is he just empowers these guys. He lets them make mistakes. Abaji's made mistakes and he's still out there. But these guys are knowing that they don't have to play by a game with looking over their shoulder. Am I going to get pulled because I, wasn't exactly in the right perfect spot for this pass from, Donovan Mitchell or whatever. Now it's they just are playing free, and it's just fantastic. I can't say how impressed I am. This is not normal what we're seeing, guys. By the way, in the chat, if we have a little time, maybe we can do a little Q&A at the very end here, but you can put a question in the chat. Looks like I can show it on the screen, so that's kind of cool. So anyways, if you have a question, just ask it, and if I like it, I'll put it up. If I don't, I won't. But anyways, Will Hardy, here's another question I had. One of the guys that's been just remarkable this year and has kind of become what we thought he might become in the NBA is Lauri Markkanen. What are your thoughts on Lauri Markkanen, and how good is he, and can he keep up this level of play?
Yeah, so I actually just wrote about Markkanen and how sustainable this early season play has been for him, because what we're seeing right now is, I think, about 22 points per game and 9 rebounds. Let's see it now after last game is 21 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. And he's just looking like he's the go-to guy on the team, and he's not disappointing. The interesting thing is that his shooting is a little bit all over the map. a lot of people have been talking about how his 3-point shot is just not there so far this year. He's been missing a lot of shots that he would normally make from three. He's a career, I think, 36% 3-point shooter, and he's hitting 28% right now. And so you'll expect that to go up.
That's what's crazy. He might get better.
Yep. The opposite side of that, though, is that his finishing at the rim has been incredibly good. And so that may come down a bit, but a lot of that has been a lot of open shots, open dunks. And so if we can keep generating those looks, maybe that can maintain at least closer to where it is. Right now it's at a pretty ridiculous percentage, but that'll probably come down. But it can stay really high, and his 3-point shooting can come up really high. And then maybe he's a 24, 25 point per game scorer. He's not at his peak right now, but he's playing really well. And I think it is sustainable. We're going to see some changes as teams learn how to defend the Jazz. We're going to see him struggle at times. Like we've already seen a couple of games where he just couldn't buy a bucket. But he manages to impact the game even in those. Last night's game against the Grizzlies, he just could not hit a three. But he still managed to grab the rebounds, dish out some assists, finish at the basket, and he just found ways to impact the game. And that's what excites me, is that he's not completely reliant on his shot in order to impact the game.
I agree. I think I've just been surprised because, we don't watch all these other teams all the time like the other blogs and all the reporters do. I've just been surprised, like you said, I've just been surprised how athletic he is, how well he moves in transition. I mean, he's one of those players, it seems like them removing the take foul has helped him out in a way because he's getting a bucket or two in transition every night. But I mean, he's finishing at the rim and some of it looks sustainable. Like last night against the Grizzlies, he had that reverse dunk. And I mean, he like adjusted midair to, I'm kind of blown away.
His dunk reel through 7 games is ridiculous. He's got so many poster
he
dunks
dunked
already.
on Rudy Gobert. I mean, the athleticism from him has been, and like the functional athleticism from him has been so impressive. I didn't expect it. And like you said, he's shooting like 20-something% from three, which will likely go up because he's a better shooter than that. We all know he can shoot it. That although, at the same time, he's kind of he's the number one option as far as scoring for the Jazz. So I'm sure he has a lot of defenses kind of focusing on him. But I mean, he kind of fits the mold of a high level wing scorer because he's so tall, he can shoot over guys. And then you combine it with the fact that he's pretty athletic and he's getting to the line too. Like he's drawing fouls. He's hitting little mid-range. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how good he's playing. He's playing like a diet Kevin Durant a tiny bit, and it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is rare to see guys of his size move the way he does. He's not the quickest or the fastest, but what he is smooth and controlled, and he is athletic. And he's strong too. We've seen him take guys down in the post. We've seen him go through them to dunk on them or grab offensive rebounds over the top of them. And so just seeing a guy of his size be that under control when flying through the air is rare. You don't really see that on guys that aren't star players. And so that says a lot about his ceiling. He's got all the tools to be a legitimate number one option in the NBA.
It's been unbelievable. All right, Paul Lipman asks, do players develop quicker in meaningful games? Is there a risk that player development stagnates in uncompetitive blowouts? That's a good question. I guess I can start. I agree. I think playing players in minutes that matter is different than just throwing guys out there in garbage time. I mean, in garbage time, you're playing against other garbage time players, and everyone's just trying to get like their little moment to make a shot or something to just, show up on the stat sheet. But like last game, those minutes for Agbaji were amazing because that game was on the line. He had to perform. I mean, that's the thing is like when you're playing a game that matters, you have to perform. Otherwise, your team loses. And so I think understanding the level of play you have to be at, that was a playoff atmosphere last night. And Agbaji was in that game, and I'm sure it's a little bit of getting used to the water. And I think there is a difference. I mean, if you just have them in games where you're getting blown out, there's still value to going out there and playing against good teams, even if you're getting blown out. you still learn things. You still learn what you need to get better at. You see other teams doing things. You learn how to defend better, all sorts of stuff. But being out there in a competitive environment has a lot of benefits that you might not have had before. Like just basically getting used to that kind of feeling and that level of play is different than when you're on a team that you know you're going to lose. Um, Honestly, for a player that's on a tanking team and you're getting better when you know you're going to lose, it's basically up to that player to create that development. Because if you're like developing with other good players, they're helping you, they're teaching you. Mike Conley's pulling you aside, Malik Beasley's talking to you on the bench about something. And if a player's willing to learn, they can learn faster, I think. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I think you're totally right that a competitive game is a different environment than a blowout. And yeah, a player who's getting all their reps in mostly competitive games is probably going to have, at least they're going to have better development chances than players who aren't getting that. That said, I do think that it's important to say that a great player is going to be a great player regardless. They've got the best training. The NBA is going to train them with all of the best resources that they have. And even playing an uncompetitive NBA game is still an NBA game. So I think it is better development scenario for a team to be good. But like, I mean, just for an example, you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's been playing on the tanking Thunder for, what is it, 3 years now? Something like that. And he just keeps getting better and better and better. And they're never in close games. But that's what, because he's a really good player. A really good player is going to figure that out. And so if you're worried that you tank and you get Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson or someone like that, and they're not going to reach their potential because the Jazz are losing too many games, I think that's probably an unrealistic fear. I think a great player is going to be a great player no matter how many games they win in their first couple of seasons.
Well, yeah, and you just made me think. One thing too is if you have a winning team or a winning culture set up, then a player like Scoot Henderson or Wembanyama that comes into that, it's like it's already set up. Mm-hmm. It's already a positive culture, and they just learn from that. If you're a team like the Thunder, which, you know, a lot of people are, by the way, the Thunder 3-3, they are a pretty decent team. You come into a team like that, and if all the guys are just used to losing, and that's kind of how it goes, then that can affect the player coming in. You know, they just are gonna acclimate to the environment they're in, unless they're like a special personality, a special leader, something like that. Someone that says, "No, I'm not losing this game." You know, that type of personality. So it's really clear, like what the Jazz are doing makes a ton of sense. And I just have the Jazz can't trade Kelly Olynyk till November 22nd. And so that's kind of a date I'm watching. Like, is that when they send over Olynyk, who, by the way, is a better player than Miles Turner, just straight up a better player? Is that the day they send over that and other players? And because that's pretty interesting to me. It's crazy how fast the season goes by. We're already 7 games in, and it doesn't take long for a team like the Lakers to be just out of the running. If they don't make a trade soon, I mean, they have to start winning games. If they want to make the playoffs, a 5-game losing streak is bad, but all of a sudden a 5-game losing streak can turn into 8 games and 10 games. By the way, I'm actually going to be at the game. I think I have like row 7 tickets. I'm pretty excited. I get to see LeBron James for the first time. He better play. He better play. I just want to say I saw LeBron James in person. You know, I never got to see Michael Jordan in person. I would like to see LeBron in person at least once. So anyways, they can get a firsthand look at the Utah Jazz and Mike Conley and Kelly Olynyk on that night when we beat them by like 20. Can you imagine? The Lakers are so bad. They're so bad. And so I just have a hard time. I don't know. And here's one thing, and I know we're getting close. We're at 40 minutes here almost. I have so much more faith in this team in some ways than even last year's team. When we're like close, and especially in the fourth quarter, I feel like we have a shot. Like last season, how depressing was last year when you'd be in close games at the end of the season and you're just like, we're not winning. Like, we're not going to win this game. They're going to score on us. We're not going to stop them. And we have an inefficient score on our end, and we're just not going to win. This year, it's like if we lose, I'm almost like surprised. They move the ball so well. They play their offense. There's no like, I do believe that you have to have that top 5 guy to win a title. I just think that's something you need to win a championship. It just doesn't happen, except for like one time in the last 20, 30 years. But the Jazz are showing you can win a lot of games with no stars and moving the ball and playing incredibly hard, playing efficiently, good shooters. And so they're just a good team. And I don't know. Well, I don't know if I have anything else. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Just on last year's team is a far better team than this year's team, but on to your point, when it comes down to it, we can trust this year's team, this current team. I can trust them to give it everything to try to win that game, and I could not trust last year's team to do that. So that's the difference. That's why, even though last year was a better roster, I sometimes do feel the same way. I feel a little bit more confidence with this year because I know that they're going to try their hardest to win that game. So
I just want to I want to look up. I don't know how to look this up. Like clutch wins. Okay. So this season, the Jazz have 4 clutch wins in the 2022. Let me just look it up. We can just end on this. Last season. Oh man, this is live. So who knows? Clutch wins for the Utah Jazz. 17 apparently, according to NBA.com. So we're already 25% of the way there. And I don't know if I believe that. I'm all right. Never mind. Everyone ignore what I just said. I don't believe it. It's fake news. But anyways, I just don't know. I love this team. It's a lot of fun. I think they're going to continue to win a lot of games unless they make a trade. And even if they make a trade, I don't think that's a given that they'll keep losing. If they trade Olynyk, I think I kind of thought maybe Conley is kind of the guy, but I'm starting to think that Kelly Olynyk is kind of the spoon that stirs this soup a little bit. I think he is kind of the crux of everything they're doing. When you have him out there, I don't know, but I guess we'll have to talk next week. Do the Jazz play next Sunday? I'm going to see. I'm not sure. We'll look it up. If they're not playing, then we'll have another podcast. But if they are, then we'll just do it the next week. So anyways, guys, if you are new here, make sure that you, if you're on the SLC Dunk podcast, please make sure to rate and review. Leave us a comment. 5-star review would be great. And if you're on the channel, just give a like and subscribe if you want. That'd be great. All right. Well, thank you, Calvin. Anything else you want to add?
the Jazz do play next Sunday. So
oh, do they? So we'll be back in like 2 weeks. So we shall see. But anyways, thanks for coming on, Calvin. We will talk to you guys next time.
Yep.